It's the George Plaster Show. 30 years of the best sports talk in Middle Tennessee. Featuring Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer Watson Brown. And it's a shame it's taken this long to get an introduction for this Tennessee Sports Hall of Famer, Kelly Holcomb, along with young gun Billy Derrick. And now, here's your host, George Plaster.
All right, just go, George. Music is messing up.
Interesting music to bring us in today as we welcome all of you to Friday, to which I have this thought, thank God. This has felt like one of the longest weeks I've ever gone through. I like my house. I, in particular, like that, but I am sick of looking at it. I need to get out of here, like a lot of you. I'll say this. The main roads seem to be fine, at least near where I live. The secondaries, obviously, not so much. So wherever you may be traveling this weekend, do it safely. Kelly Holcomb, not with us on Fridays. Billy Derrick is. Billy, how are you?
I'm good, George. How you doing?
Good. We have a little quiz to get this started.
Okay.
Okay, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, you need to be honest if you have seen the poll.
I don't think I have.
Okay. What do you think is the percentage that the poll is basically A or B? Belichick, Harbaugh, what are the percentages in Atlanta, the ATL?
I would say maybe 60-40 Belichick over Harbaugh. Belichick
drew 14%, Harbaugh 86%.
Wow.
How about that?
That's surprising.
Yeah, tell me about it. Now, you want another one?
Let's do it.
This comes by way of my buddy Bob Horner through something called Front Office Sports. NFL Super Wild Card viewership. What do you think was the single highest rated of the games last weekend?
I'll go Cowboys. Cowboys Packers.
You would be correct at 40 million. What was the lowest?
The lowest, let's see. Maybe Texans Browns.
The Peacock game.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Miami drew 23 million on Peacock. ESPN's game Monday night, Tampa Bay, Philly, 28.6 million. Browns, Texans on NBC, 29 million. Steelers, Buffalo, this surprised me on Monday, 31 million. Rams, Lions, Sunday night, 35.8 million. That's a lot of people.
That's a shame the Peacock game had such low viewership because it wasn't a good game, but it's still the Chiefs Dolphins coming into the game. It was a, big game. I think a lot of people wanted to watch it. That's a shame. I don't understand why they had to put that on Peacock, but
I think we all know why. They're trying to prop up a network, and the NFL shamelessly went along with this pay-per-view, which more and more you feel like there's more and more stuff out there that you kind of have to do that with. By the way, same thing last night with the Preds win. Notice that.
Yeah.
If you're a Preds fan, last night was a really big win on a couple of fronts. Number one, it's a road win in Los Angeles. But secondly, all the teams that are out there that are right behind the Preds, they all got beat. Every last one of them.
Wow.
Yeehaw.
Yeah, the Kings are really struggling, right?
Yeah. They now have fallen. Edmonton has won 12 in a row, and they are now in the top 6.
Yeah,
Okay,
Edmonton.
moved to number 6. The Preds have moved to number 7. The Kings at the moment are number 8 and in a free fall. And by the way, The Athletic did a big piece today. You may have seen it on whether the Preds should move UC Soros.
Ah, that's the story right now with the Preds.
Well,
Soros.
it's certainly out there because the belief, Billy, is that if they were to make the move, that they could get a real haul in return. However, you better be really cautious before you do that.
Yeah. Or else you'll be regretting that move. But yeah, Preds got a win, big one last night. They'll play tomorrow at 2:00 in Arizona. They don't even play their games in Phoenix. They play their games in Tempe, Arizona. Now
they play in a rink. I believe I'm right, that seats about 5,000. I want to say it's on the Arizona State campus.
It is. Yeah, I think you're right. So should be interesting to watch that one tomorrow. But another team in Nashville, the Titans, they've got a few more interviews in the books. They completed an interview with Bobby Slowick, Texans offensive coordinator. They are up to 11 candidates now for head coach. They also completed an interview with Eagles offensive coordinator Brian Johnson. Don't think he's very high on fans' lists.
They asked him in the interview, because I was in on the interview, have you ever heard of picking up a blitz? Has that concept reached Philadelphia?
Tampa made them look like idiots. That was bad.
I don't know why he's on the list. I really don't know why anybody's interviewing anybody from Philly.
Yeah. Well, Philly may be making some own interviews of their own if they make a new move on Sirianni. Also, George, from Adam Schefter a few minutes ago, former Stanford head coach David Shaw, who interviewed yesterday to become the Chargers head coach, is going to interview this weekend to become the Titans head coach. This will be his third NFL interview in the past year. I had no idea.
Well, let me say this about David Shaw. I've interviewed him before. Really bright, incredibly intelligent. People that know him say great things about him. I think he looked at Stanford and said, I can't make this work anymore.
Yeah.
And, I would not rule him out. He will do very well in an interview setting. He just will.
Oh, yeah. I was surprised by that. So Shaw on the Titans list, of course. We'll see where all those interviews go. George, also divisional round this weekend. Starts tomorrow, 3:30, Texans and the Ravens in Baltimore. Ravens favored by 9. Packers at the 49ers, 7:15. That is out in Santa Clara. San Francisco favored by 9.5. So a lot of big lines in these games. 2:00 Sunday, Buccaneers and Lions. Most expensive ticket for any divisional round game ever. Detroit is going to be on fire again.
What kind of price tag we talking about? Because that's a smaller NFL stadium, only seats about 63.
Yeah, not sure to be exact. I did see where where it is the most expensive ticket in the divisional round game ever. Not exactly sure on the number. Also, Chiefs Bills, of course, Sunday night, 5:30. Bills favored by 3 now. All of a sudden, it was at 2.5, back up to 3. They got Stephon Diggs limited today in practice. We'll see if Diggs actually goes in the game. Also, George, in college, this is a weird piece to me. Bill O'Brien is headed to Ohio State to be their new offensive coordinator. He was the Patriots OC last year. He's got experience as head coach of the Texans, also in the Big Ten already at Penn State. Ryan Day, George, spent this offseason bringing in experienced coordinators so he could give up play calling duties. And I had not known that, but I don't really blame him. I mean, they're sort of putting all their chips in the table.
Well, first of all, it would appear, and this may not be fair because it may not be true, but it looks like O'Brien essentially was saying, look, I came here to work with Belichick, not Gerard Mayo. Now, whether that's a fair assessment or not, the fact of it is he's not working for Gerard Mayo and has instead gone the college route with one of the top 5 arguably programs in America.
Yeah, he coached Bryce Young at Alabama, both Tom Brady and Deshaun Watson during some of their best seasons. I mean, he's a good coach. Just kind of an interesting move there for Ryan Day. Also, Miami tight end Cam McCormick has been granted a 9th year of eligibility. He began his career at Oregon in 2016. He had the COVID year, redshirt year, medical. I mean, how are you having a 9th year of college?
Okay, that's my initial reaction is this is absurd. Okay, now, is that a fair answer? I don't know. I don't know enough about this young man's situation to know exactly why he warranted a 9th year, but 9 seems like about 3 too many.
Yeah, I mean, that's absolutely ridiculous. I guess he had to petition, to the NCAA for this 9th year, and he got it. So
he
good
got
for him.
It. And some others that on paper appear deserving have not. I don't know what the criteria is, and frankly, I'm not sure they do.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get it either. Also, Alabama touted quarterback recruit Julian Sayin is entering the transfer portal. Top recruit for quarterbacks in the class of 2024. He came to play for Nick Saban, he said. And Saban, of course, has retired. But Kalen DeBoer did bring in a quarterback from Washington, Austin Mack, who people are comparing to Cam Newton. So I'm guessing Sayin saw the writing on the wall, with maybe having a conversation with DeBoer saying, hey, I think we're going to bring in our guy from Washington, and Sayin said, all right, I'm out. So
it is interesting that at least 2 or 3 Crimson Tiders have not given DeBoer the time of day to either show them what he's really all about. I mean, how can you make a judgment, less than a week into this process? And that's one of the maybe unfortunate things about the transfer portal is it allows that.
Yeah, I mean, any coach following Nick Saban was going to have this happen at Alabama. I mean, I don't know that it would have been any different with any other coach. So, buckle up, Alabama fans. College hoops, George. Of course, we're going to have Griff on, preview a big weekend of the SEC. Upset last night in Memphis, South Florida. Beats the Tigers 74-73. Memphis was in control most of the game, but South Florida pulls off a big win. 74-73.
Yeah, that's one of the first things I want to talk with Mark about, because that conference to me is not all that strong to begin with. So Memphis can sit there going into last night with a 15-2 record, but their net ranking from here on in that conference probably not going to be as good as the record suggests. You cannot, if you're Memphis, lose on your home court after having a 20-point lead to South Florida. Now, nothing against South Florida, but the last time I checked, I haven't said UConn, Purdue, South Florida.
No,
That's
you haven't.
Bad loss.
Well, Griff,
I watched it. They looked bad at the end.
They did. Griff talked about it. Quinterly's hit a couple of buzzer beaters. He tried to do it again, but he missed a 3 at the buzzer. So the luck kind of ran out there for the Tigers at the end.
Come down to that.
No. Obviously, big weekend in the SEC. Vanderbilt is in Starkville to play Mississippi State. South Carolina travels over to Bud Walton Arena to play Arkansas. Alabama and Tennessee. Looking forward to that one. And George, this Dalton Connect Media I'm interested to see how much, higher it can go, how, the buzz for him. We saw it with Brandon Miller last year. I'm looking forward to keeping watching him. A&M and LSU tomorrow as well. Georgia is in Kentucky, Florida at Mizzou, and then Ole Miss at Auburn tomorrow night. It'll be a good one. So we'll talk to Guy about all those. And George, you mentioned the Preds. Or Guy. I said Guy. Griff, not Guy. I don't think Guy could probably talk a little basketball.
Oh, Guy was a Vanderbilt beat writer. He can cover that stuff. He knows what he's talking about. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So that's our update.
Yep.
Mark Griffin after the break. And then at 3:00, not only will Watson Brown join us, but we will put on paper what I will call an attractiveness meter about the Titans job. Why are so many of the network types rating it at the very bottom of the openings that are available? Well, we'll play our own game with that with Watson, and all of that and more on a snowy Friday in Nashville. If you got to drive, do it safely, but thanks for being with us. We're back after this.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donley Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donley have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to donleytimmons.com.
I'm Watson Brown.
I'm Kelly Holcomb.
I'm Billy Derrick.
We're the George Plaster Show. We've been Nashville's best sports talk for the last 30 years. And you know what? We still are.
Catch us live weekdays from 2 to 4 p.m. Central Time in Nashville on YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. Also, the podcast version is available on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs. Oh, yeah. College basketball time. Our buddy, former University of Tennessee star Mark Griffin, about to join us. There he is. He was at Thompson Bowling Tuesday night for the Dalton Connect show. but I'm guessing that you're smarter than trying to make the trip tomorrow.
You are correct, George. After that trip, trying to get home from Knoxville, being holed up in a hotel for a long time, going to the game with 5,000 strong fans who were so loud. It was an incredible environment. A lot of that had to do with playing Florida. You know, Tennessee loves beating Florida in any sport. But this tomorrow, I'm going to watch at home.
So, okay, you got to watch a real treat in what Dalton Connect put together that night. A little bit of a Pistol Pete Maravich show, and 2 nights in a row where he's been in the 30s, Saturday against Georgia and this Florida game. This might not be fair, but fill in the blank. Dalton Connect is the best Tennessee scorer since whom?
Wow. Well, Grant Williams was an excellent scorer. I think he's the best shooter since Chris Lofton. You have to go way back when it's interesting. You go back in history when, you know, Chris Lofton's famous shot over Kevin Durant, who was coaching Rick Barnes. So
Yeah.
I go back to back when Chris Lofton played, one of UT's all-time favorites, as well as Grant Williams. But I think of Chris Lofton's the one that comes to my mind, George.
Again, Mark, you got a situation where Tennessee on Tuesday night looked incredible.
Yeah.
Defensively, they just swarmed all over Florida. But there's also a part of me that says, I've seen this before in January. And you've kind of painted the picture that in Knoxville, there's a little bit of a, yeah, but we've seen this before. So why will it be different in March, or will it be?
Well, I think it will be, George, because of the having a go-to scorer that UT has now in Dalton Connect. They've not had that as far as someone who can get you a bucket. They have the other checks, if you like to say, as far as NCAA worthy advancement teams, as far as overall good, really good guard play, great defense, and great free throw shooting. I just think when it comes to tournament time, that's what you have to have. And for those who are just now, you know, that are looking towards March and are more pessimistic, I would just say, hey, enjoy the journey. You know, let's enjoy these times right now, what UT's doing with the shocking results and activity that Dalton Connect has displayed on the court. And not only that, but his teammates' buy-in. Because you look at fifth-year players, you know, Sante Vescovi and Josiah Jordan-James, not that they're taking a back seat at all, but they have lesser roles as far as offensive output, and it doesn't seem to bother them at all. Why? Because you're winning. This is your last season. People remember, there was a saying, people remember what you do when you're a senior. Now you can change that. People remember what you do when you're a grad student. And they want to go out with a bang. And I just think there's something more to this team than what we've witnessed in the past. Time will tell. Tennessee's going to lose some games, you know, during the season, but it's just so exciting to see what Coach Barnes and staff have put on the floor right now, and fans are loving it.
Okay, let's play the flip side. These coaches in the SEC aren't stupid. They see Dalton Connect putting up 35 and 39, and starting tomorrow against Alabama, isn't there more of a, okay, we have got to get this guy under control and keep him more around 20 than upper 30s? So what do you think SEC teams are going to start doing differently to get him under control?
Well, one way is for him not to get the ball in his hands as easily as he has. Now, what I've seen, though, is Coach Barnes is letting Dalton take the ball down the court or up the court, which is unique because he's not a point guard. So if he's able to bring the ball down the court, he's already at an advantage. But what I anticipate, even tomorrow with Nate Oates, who, let's face it, is not real big on defense, but he's going to have some things he's going to want to run against Dalton, is don't allow him to get the ball so easily. And you can take care of that when the ball's taken out of bounds. You just put a guy in front of him, or you double up, make sure someone else gets the ball and you get back on defense. And then in the offensive set that UT runs, you just have to have an extra awareness of where he is on the court. And yes, that means you're going to have to sacrifice as far as your defensive intensity on another player. Maybe it's a non-shooter that's in the game, but you've got to give up something. And I just think that what they're going to do is really focus on fewer ball touches for him, making sure that they have open communication when he does have the ball, if they're going to try to double him and make him get rid of the ball, and have what we call the help and recover, so that the rest of the 4 players are adjusting accordingly to pick up their men. So it'll be interesting, and I think you're going to see that throughout the rest of the season. You're probably going to see teams try to bang him and beat him up the best they can. But what I've seen with Connect this season is, you see he's not an emotional type player. He keeps his cool, and I think he will keep his cool when players go after him. I was fortunate, George, at the Florida game to sit on the front row, and I heard him and Riley Kugel going at each other verbally. And I thought it was really cool that Dalton Connect was talking smack to him and Kugel was going back to Connect. And both those guys are going to be in the NBA, so they're not done. But Florida had nothing that they could do against him.
Mark, you know the Tennessee situation as well as anybody. Was he this good coming in, or is there more to this where Tennessee's coaching staff has gotten stuff out of him that Northern Colorado maybe never saw?
I think it's a combination. I may have mentioned this before, but I was able to go to a few preseason practices that were not open to the public, but Coach Barnes let me come. And within the first 10 minutes, I knew that number 3 was the best player on the court, and it was him. I didn't know anything about Dalton Connect, didn't know anything about him. But the first 10 minutes, I saw he is their best player. So he came equipped. But what that says about him is he put a lot of work in the summer. He came to Tennessee to improve his defense. That's what's been the knock on him, is his lack of defense. Well, he's working on his defense now and has improved, and he's going to have to continue to improve to help this Tennessee team. But one thing Coach Barnes is known for is development. That's another one of his taglines, as far as, hey, you come here, I'm going to develop you. And he's shown that in the past with guys that weren't 5 stars, and has developed them into really great players in the college system, and some have moved on to the NBA. But I think that's what was impressive for Dalton when he came to University of Tennessee. He knew he was going to be challenged defensively. He knew he was going to become a better player in Coach Barnes' system, and he's shown that so far.
Billy, anything on the University of Tennessee front you want to throw out there at Mark?
Well, I was going to ask about tomorrow. You know, you mentioned Alabama and Nate Oates and his style, not the biggest defensive guy. Does that suit Tennessee? Like, can Tennessee score with them? You know, if it's 92-85, is that Tennessee winning or Bama winning? Like, how do you see those two matching up when you get it kind of into the nitty gritty?
It's a great question. And, you know, Alabama's 4th in the country in scoring right now, averaging 90 points a game. So yeah, they like that style of play, or you could say lifestyle of play. I don't think that it helps Tennessee to get into the 90s. I do think, I hate to use the term slow it down, but they'll have a slower tempo and take advantage when they can, but not rush shots. And when you're making shots, it's easier to get back on defense. So Alabama wants to get up and down the court. For those of you who haven't seen Mark Sears, fantastic guard. I think is the SEC Player of the Year, even with what Dalton Connect's done here recently, or actually throughout the season. Mark Sears is transferred from Ohio a couple seasons ago, and he's in the top 10 in the SEC in 5 categories, including number 1 in the SEC in scoring. He is the key cog. I cannot wait to see the matchup between him and Sakai Ziegler tomorrow to see if they can neutralize Sears as well as Alabama is going to try to neutralize Dalton Knecht.
George?
Okay, let me take Memphis for just a second. Mark, I watched that meltdown last night.
Yeah.
And to me, that's a really bad loss for a team that cannot afford that because of the weak conference, in my opinion, that they're a part of.
Oh, I watched it as well, George. When you're up 20 points at home in Memphis, you got to lose to anyone.
Yeah.
It was shocking. I was keenly watching that. Desmond Oliver, their assistant coach, used to be at UT. He's now an assistant at South Florida. So I tuned in to kind of watch him as well, thinking that, Memphis would blow them out. What's interesting, Memphis, with their great record, they've only have one quad 1 win, and they have 4 more opportunities left in the AAC, and 2 of them are against FAU. So no one was happier last night than Dusty May and FAU to see Memphis lose at home, because that is touted as a tough place to play. But for some reason, I don't know what, but maybe they didn't take their competition the way they should and fight through this and kind of laid off the gas, because they shouldn't have let South Florida in. And South Florida was playing much harder than Memphis. The 50-50 balls were all going to South Florida. They were getting the ball inside. They were stopping shots. David Jones still had a great game for Memphis, but other players did not step up accordingly, George.
Mark, the thing that concerns me, yeah, they've got a 15-2 record, but it's exactly what you said. They don't have a ton of great resume stuff.
No.
And so, they're going to end up somewhere, more like a 6 or a 7 seed.
Yeah, that's right.
And yet there are certain nights where they look more like a 2 or a 3, but they've also had the habit of taking, the gas. What's the word I'm looking for? Taking the pedal off the
gas off the pedal.
Yeah, whatever it is. I don't know if it's gas, if it's ethanol, whatever the hell it is. They seem to take their foot off it when they get these big leads, and that's not going to fly.
Not at all. And they showed that against Vanderbilt. We talked a few weeks ago how, Memphis beat Vanderbilt by 2 at home. And I understand battles on the road, close games, even some losses, but perplexed to see that South Florida did as well as they did last night in Memphis. I tuned in just to get a score so I could tune off, because I figured it'd be a 20-point game for Memphis. And I bet most viewers did the same. So very, very disappointing loss for Memphis and Penny. I don't know if it's preparation or, once again, looking past your opponent, but no one's happier than FAU. And you're going to have just 2 teams from the AAC make it to the tournament unless there's an upset during the AAC tournament, which I don't see happening. But you're right. Doesn't help their resume. It's going to drop them with Lenardi and Joe Lenardi with bracketology and Selection Sunday. It's not going to look good, because they do look at bad losses.
And that's a bad loss.
It's a bad loss. I mean, show you how bad it is, George. South Florida lost at home to Central Michigan. Mm-hmm. Central Michigan's net ranking's like a 280. So that's a bad loss.
It's losses like these that, if they pile up, guys, that could be the difference between a 4 seed, say, and maybe even like a 7 or an 8.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Billy, before we go to the break, do something for me. Look up Lenardi's stuff and see where Memphis is right now. Two pieces of breaking news. The Raiders now finalizing a deal to hire interim coach Antonio Pierce as their head coach, which they should have done.
Yes.
And the Astros have signed flamethrower Josh Hader, former Milwaukee Brewer. What was it I saw? Was it 5 years, 95 million, something? Yeah. 5 years, 95 million.
Wow.
Pays to throw hard.
Yeah.
George, Memphis is a projected 5 seed right now.
Which will drop because that came out it came out this morning, so I don't know if they had dropped already, but Memphis will drop.
Okay, after the break, we'll go nothing but net.
Net.
Say this. I watched New Mexico a couple of nights ago.
Yeah.
Richard Pitino, man, they've got some stuff going in the pit.
They do. Can't wait to talk about it.
We'll do it and more when we come back.
Hit After Hit has become the baseball store in Tennessee. They have over 1,000 different models of gloves and over 1,500 wood bats. They also have several Iron Mike pitching machines as well as a Hit Tracks machine. If they don't have it, you probably don't need it. We're proud to call Hit After Hit the official shirt provider of the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night.
Forget the fact that Sir Speedy Music City is owned by my BGA classmate James Warren. Their work stands on its own merit. James and his staff do incredible work, as evidenced by the huge banners at the Plaster and Friends Celebrity Bowling Night. If you're looking for quality to help your marketing and business communications, and you want it at a reasonable price, these are your folks. Call them at 615-832-9511 or go to print at sirspeedymusiccity.com. And be sure to tell them Plaz sent you.
Family owned and operated for more than 2 decades, Alaco Fine Wood Floors is Nashville and Middle Tennessee's choice for premium quality hardwood floors. Since 1995, Jimmy Alaco and his army of employees have embodied the approach of taking pride in one's craft and providing superior customer service, growing from a one-man shop to a team of 23 professionals who share the founder's passion for quality craftsmanship and customer satisfaction. If you are interested in contacting them, you can find their headquarters at 2505 Winford Avenue in Berry Hill, or give them a call at 615-356-0303. Again, that's 615-356-0303, or log on to alacofinewoodfloors.com. Alaco Fine Wood Floors, serving Middle Tennessee's hardwood flooring needs since 1995.
For over 35 years, Wilson Bank & Trust has been committed to providing customized banking solutions to help individuals, families, and businesses in Tennessee achieve their goals. As your full-service community bank, we are proud to offer loans with competitive rates, local decision-making, and fast, friendly service from our experienced lenders. No matter where you are on your financial journey, Wilson Bank & Trust is ready to help you take the next step. Visit your nearest Wilson Bank & Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances, and Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and wife Daphne, along with their experienced staff, give men the treatment required to improve their quality of life, improve your immune system, energy level, cognitive function, and more. There's no better time to achieve a healthy lifestyle. What are you waiting for? Give Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment at 615-486-3458 or visit the website coolspringsmd.com.
Friday afternoon, talking some hoops with Mark Griffin, former University of Tennessee basketball star. Watson Brown will join us at 3 o'clock, and we'll talk about why all the pundits are saying the Titans' head coaching job is one of the least attractive of the openings right now. Okay, Mark, people that do watch you know you really get into net rankings. Why?
Well, George, it's the new way now, and it's going to become more commonplace in the future because it is an evaluation tool, NCAA evaluation tool. It is being utilized. It's a forecasting model, pretty much. I don't know all the details of it. I'm learning as I go, but I tell you, all the coaches know about it. All the staff know about it. The players know about it. And what it does, it's a tool that looks at strength of schedule, how one fares against quality opponents, especially on the road. You're measured differently depending on how you fare on the road. Scoring margin does take place, which is interesting because when I did some research on this, George, I'm thinking, why aren't some of these walk-ons playing more the last 4 minutes of a game? Because if you reflect, George, you'll agree. Used to, you go to game, there's a blowout. You need to cheer for the walk-ons to come in the last 4 minutes during that TV timeout. And now you're seeing guys may get in with a minute left or not because the scoring margin does come into play. And I feel that that's one barometer that coaches are looking at to say, hey, we can't give up an 8-point turnaround in a few minutes just to play some walk-ons. And I like to watch the walk-ons at the end of a blowout, either on TV or live. So that's what it is right now. It's replaced the RPI. It's just a great tool. And what's interesting, and we're going to talk about it now, is there's teams that if they're not in the top 25, they're just not talked about. But when you look at the net and you see a team pop up, you're like, oh my gosh, maybe I'm Ole Miss on the bubble, and I need to start paying more attention to New Mexico. So that's the reason that I really like it.
Okay, we're looking at the SEC's net rankings here for just a moment.
Yes.
Is Georgia are they a little late to the party on Georgia?
Well, I think I don't. Well, let me back up. I mean, Georgia started off, they're 13-4, so they've got a good record, but it goes back to the value of who they're playing and where, and they're just not showing enough right now. Now, what's really cool about this is the net ranking is not based on how you fare the last 10 games of the season. If your net ranking is you're playing an opponent that's ranked really low and they get on a winning streak, then that quad 2 win now can become a quad 1 win or vice versa.
Right.
So Georgia still, all these teams still have a shot. Well, not all of them, but a lot of them still have a shot. It just gives you a great barometer to say, okay, who's truly a bubble team and who's truly in during this snapshot of the season. And right now I don't have Georgia. And I know, a couple weeks ago, we were talking about maybe 9 teams making it. Well, now it's looking more like it could be 7. Now, can that change in the next couple of weeks? Yes. I don't see more than 7 going to the tournament permanently anyway, because I think South Carolina is going to go south. My trump card is Ole Miss. I think they have a good enough defense that they can hang on to some games, especially at home. Florida, I don't see advancing. I'm perplexed by Texas A&M because I believe they're 10-7, but yet their net's a 44, so that's pretty solid. But they have 7 losses, George. I mean, come on.
Mark, let me go to the bottom of this. And Vandy, and that number is embarrassing.
Oh,
244. How does a Power 5 get to 244? Honest.
You schedule who they schedule and you lose at home. That's how.
Because they had some cream puffs early.
Cream puffs, and they lost.
Right.
So, and then they haven't had any wins that are significant as far as a quad 1 win to move them up. So until they get some quad 1s or even quad 2, then they're going to stay 244. And the only team they're looking down at as far as major division basketball is DePaul.
Okay, let me try it this way, and you may not know the answer. What is the closest to Vandy Power 5 school?
I don't know who is above them the closest. I do know who below, because it's the only team that's below them is DePaul. I don't know who is the immediate one above them.
I think it's Louisville.
It was Louisville, but then Louisville won at Miami.
Wow.
I think last time I checked, it was Louisville. I can check again.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's look at 2 or 3 examples of your net where the record may not be as good as the net. Okay, keep that up there for a minute, Billy.
Is that where you were going to go or no?
Do what?
Is that where you were going to go?
Yeah. I watched New Mexico 2 nights ago because I've been hearing great things about them. They play in one of the absolute snake pits, the Pit in Albuquerque, and they dismantled, and I'm trying to think who it was.
Well, they beat Utah State the other night, which propelled them to where they are now to be a 27 in the net. And Utah State was 16th ranked in the country, George. Maybe that's who you're thinking of.
Yep. And yet on that night, New Mexico was clearly the better team.
Yes.
Now, somewhere in here, Richard's daddy, Rick Pitino, author of Robert Parrish is not walking through that door.
Or sit down, little Ricky.
So the job he's done there, Mark, is incredible. I've watched them enough. Look, you can think whatever you want to think about some of his behavior, whether you like him or not. That guy can coach.
He can coach, no doubt. Everywhere he's been, George. And what's interesting, and where I think I wanted to go with this with these 2 individuals, is the Pitino effect. You've got 2 programs unexpectedly that have a great shot to make the NCAA tournament. It's a father-son duo. Now, 2017, when Rick Pitino was at Louisville, Richard was at Minnesota. They both made the NCAA tournament. They did not go against each other, which I'm surprised the NCAA didn't pair them against each other and then say they had, no reasons behind that. But this season could be another year that both teams make the tournament. Now, according to Joe Lunardi, he's got St. John's as an 8 seed, and New Mexico State is, I believe, their first 4 out. So they're in the talks. They're on the bubble. Things are looking good. Now, one thing about Mountain West, since we were talking about New Mexico, a surprising, really good conference this season. You've got the likes of San Diego State, Utah State, you've got Nevada, you've got New Mexico. I mean, if you get 4 teams from the Mountain West, that says a lot, George. And I really think that's going to happen.
Well, one of the reasons they don't get the pub that a lot of the basketball conferences do, they're on CBS Sports Network.
That's right.
And only the junkies like you and me ever watch that.
That's correct.
Now, I'll say this. There's also some Fairleigh Dickinsons versus who knows who. But CBS Sports Network carries a lot of Missouri Valley Conference.
Right.
Belmont is. They carry a lot of Mountain West, which is New Mexico and UNLV and Boise and San Diego State. And so a lot of people don't know that much about them.
I mean, you're right, George. It's all about TV, and you got a lot of competition there when it comes to TV as well. I mean, you look at the timing of a CBS Sports game versus SEC Network versus ESPN, ESPN2. I mean, a sports fan's got a lot of options of what they want to watch. And for people around Nashville and that follow the SEC, which are a lot of, your listeners, I'm assuming, then they're not going to tune into the Mountain West when you've got a chance even to watch, like I did the other night, Vanderbilt play against Auburn at home, pulling for Vanderbilt to be competitive, in which it just didn't happen. But I would have still rather watch Vanderbilt than I would tune into a Mountain West Conference game because I don't know their personnel.
Okay, so since you brought Vandy up, I have contended for a while that based on that roster, 4 conference wins is the most they could possibly get. Would you buy that?
No doubt. And let me add something as well. I hate to play the what if game at all, but when you look at the personnel they have on the team and what they lost, it's interesting when you look at 2 of the key players that Vanderbilt lost this last season were in the SEC. So, you've got Studi that's at South Carolina, averaging 10 points a game. You've got Jordan Wright, LSU, had a huge game the other night. I think he's averaging 15 points a game. You add those 2 to this Vanderbilt squad, probably having a different conversation. But the bigger story is, why are these 2 not at Vanderbilt this season? And we don't know. But these guys left as seniors, George. And there's just more to it, because to be able to graduate with a Vanderbilt degree says a lot. And I'm not knocking the other schools going there and finishing with the degree, but you spent those several years at Vanderbilt program, and then you depart, but yet you still go within the SEC and play. It's a head scratcher.
Billy, chime in.
Yeah, enough of Vandy. I don't know that anybody wants to hear about that. And Mark, you brought this up, this graphic here, nothing but net. And I love it because it is interesting. Michigan State with a great net, but, similar to a team like A&M, they're 10-7 and only 2-6 in quad 1 games. Similar thing with St. Mary's and Xavier. What does this mean for these teams' tournament chances? I mean, is this a situation where you take a little bit of the net off just because of, how they might fare in Q1, and even just kind of look at their record, like 9-8 and you're top 40 in the net?
Once again, it's perplexing to me when I look this up, Billy and Saul, especially Xavier. I'm thinking, oh my God, they've lost 8 games, but yet they're ranked so highly in the net, which is an evaluation tool, which makes me concerned if I'm a bubble school in another program or conference, to be like, should I be concerned? And obviously you got to control the controllables and worry about your own program. But this is how fans are. We're always looking out at other teams to compare where you are versus them. And that's the fun thing to me about following college basketball is now, and this is what I wanted to open up to the listeners, is, start watching these teams and seeing how they're faring and if they're moving up or down, because Xavier fans may think this is a terrible season, but according to the net, if we go by the net alone, then they're still in the conversation for the committee to at least discuss if they are going to be a viable team to make the tournament. Now, they may not pass the so-called eyeball test, but how do you measure an eyeball test? You got to measure. You have to have measurables. So now Michigan State let me just focus on them for a sec, because a few weeks ago I mentioned them as the most disappointing team in the NCAA right now, based on preseason being, I believe, number 4 in the country. But they've made a drastic turn and are going in the right direction. I haven't seen a lot of St. Mary's, but one thing about St. Mary's that's evident is how many Q1 opportunities are they going to have in their conference. And with Xavier, I think they fall off. But as of today, you see they're in the ballpark.
That's interesting with Gonzaga being down. St. Mary's might have lucked out this year. Same with Santa Clara, another team that beat Gonzaga earlier. Mark, let's go back to the SEC, and we're going to wrap up here soon. A lot of good matchups tomorrow. Ole Miss is at Auburn. Yes. Auburn throttled Vandy. I was at that game. Really impressed with Auburn and their depth. I mean, they roll. I mean, their 8th or 9th guy is a player that could start on a lot of other teams around the country, whether it's Cardwell or a couple of their other transfers. Holloway, it was ridiculous against Vandy. Can Ole Miss bounce back? Because they need it, right? I mean, they can't get too far down in the net here. They're coming off a loss at LSU. What are you seeing in this one?
Wow. I'm glad you mentioned that, because there was 2 games that I really wanted to focus on. Was the Bama UT game. The next one I had on the radar was Ole Miss at Auburn, because both of those teams are ranked. You know, Ole Miss is 22nd, Auburn is 13th, and everyone's talking about Auburn. And it's amazing what Coach Pearl is able to accomplish this season with keeping so many guys happy with few minutes played. And the graphic you got there is the guy that I wanted to talk about, Jalen Williams, number 2. I came up with a phrase, most undervalued player, MUP. He is my MUP right now for the SEC. He's my most undervalued player. And I'll tell you why, because of what he brings to the table. I mean, he's shooting over 60% from the field. I believe he's 80% from the free throw line. He's 43% from the three-point range, and no one ever talks about him. But he is that it factor that I think is going to be what is going to really carry this Auburn forward. Or if he doesn't play consistently, I think Auburn's knocked out early, guys. But I've been really impressed watching him play. He's like a rock, the foundation that I think keeps this team together. Because if you really watch Auburn closely, they're a very emotional team, which can be fine. But he seems to really steady them, and I'm just very impressed with Jalen Williams and what he's contributing to this Auburn team.
I got one more, George. Kentucky and Georgia. Like we talked about, if Georgia can pull this off, that'd be massive. But, Mark, Kentucky's rolling.
I think this is going to be a blowout, personally. It's just a gut feeling. You're right. It'll be a really good matchup, but it's at Kentucky. And, of course, you can say home games, they're going to win, which they had a key loss to, UNC Wilmington. But right now, maybe that game's motivated them. And sometimes losses can turn teams around. And I think that's the case with Kentucky right now. And I just think that they're clicking. Aaron Bradshaw's getting more playing time. Trey Mitchell is a tough player, a guy that doesn't get enough credit, even though he's their leading scorer, Antonio Reeves, who is not on the NBA draft board, but yet has been their best player. Exciting times for Kentucky moving forward. And I think they blow out Georgia tomorrow.
Ditto. Mark, if you get stuck tomorrow, and most of us are gonna, and you want to watch some college basketball, I'll give you 6 outside the conference. UConn, Villanova.
Ooh.
BYU, Texas Tech.
Wow.
Marquette, St. John's.
Wow.
Robert Parrish. Not going to walk through that door. Baylor, Texas.
Wow.
Oklahoma, Cincinnati. Purdue, Iowa.
Wow. Great day for basketball. It couldn't be better for people in the mid-state area. And I know East Tennessee area is pretty much locked at home as well. So can't wait, guys. Looking forward to being on the air next week. We'll see how the net moves next season. Nothing but net. I actually like that term.
I know you do.
I came up with it. Yes. So we'll continue on with this journey and see what happens.
Next week, Big Monday and Super Tuesday kickoff too.
Oh,
don't forget that. Yeah.
Couldn't get any better than that.
No.
I know George will be on that sofa like I will. So
let's see you, Mark.
Thanks, guys.
After the break, we'll have stat of the day, which could be a complete embarrassment. And then Watson Brown analyzing the attractiveness of the Titans head coaching job. Stay with us.
Convenience and value, two words that we expect when we do business. Our goal at JHA Company is to deliver just that, both to our school partners and to our customers. Whether you're purchasing photos, yearbooks, class jewelry, letter jackets, school spirit wear, or senior graduation products, we strive to make the experience easy, convenient, and cost-effective. Find out more at jhacompany.com or call 615-867-6345 for more information. JHA, one source, one company.
Star Physical Therapy was established in 1997 with one great mission: to serve. If you're hurting, don't wait to receive physical therapy. You don't need a referral to see their physical therapist, and early morning and evening appointments are available. Make the call to 615-673-1420 and get rid of that pain. Star Physical Therapy, the official health provider of Football Friday. Venture Express has been helping people in this area for more than 40 years. They're headquartered in Murfreesboro with over 30 years of dedicated fleets involving production, manufacturing, and corrugated experiences. They're an asset-based company with over 700 tractors, 4,000 trailers, and 800 drivers. If you need their help, dial them up 615-793-9500 or log on to ventureexpress.com.
You were in a crash.
Yeah.
Your kids were in the car with you.
We're very lucky to even be telling this story to you. Nikki treated us like family, and she was very caring and loving, and I'm just so grateful for that. She was somebody I could trust, and being a veteran, that's so important to me. My kids are going to have a better life now because I don't have to worry about those expenses that we were out. Your family has really created a legacy of trust, and I would recommend you to anyone.
You know, starting to save for your future doesn't have to be difficult. Let Wilson Bank and Trust help tone up your financial goals this year. Our certificates of deposits or CDs can help your money work harder with our competitive rates, earning you more than ever before. WBT checking options allow you to earn rewards you can really use, like a high interest rate or cash back on check card purchases when you meet some e-banking qualifications. Visit your closest Wilson Bank and Trust office or online at wilsonbank.com to get started today. Member FDIC.
Top of the hour on a Friday. Watson Brown coming up, talking a little Titans playoffs. But first, stat of the day brought to you by John English Antique Sports and Cards out in Shelbyville. They're open during the week, Tuesday through Friday from noon to 5 and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 5. Give them a call, 931-492-4304. All right, George, let's see what we got from Matthew today. We're going college hoops. This week, Gonzaga is unranked in the AP poll for the first time since 2016, ending the longest active streak in men's college basketball. What school now holds the longest active streak of being ranked in the AP poll?
This is a really good one.
Yeah.
And I am going to zero in on one that it probably is not. Kansas.
Okay, you're going Kansas. Any other guesses?
North Carolina has had a downturn in the last 5 or 6 years. So I don't think it's them. It could well be Michigan State. That's the other one I really thought about. But I'm going to go with Kansas.
Well, it's not who you would think.
That's
It
what
is
I'm
the
afraid of.
Houston Cougars.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kelvin Sampson.
I would imagine that's all, of course, pretty recent with what Sampson's done there.
Wow. You're right.
Crazy. That's a good one.
Houston. Okay. By the way, you'll notice I have a cold. So do most of you.
The sniffles.
Oh, God. It never ends. Is Watson Brown present and accounted for?
Yes, he is.
Watson, how are you?
I'm doing good, George. You sound awful, babe. Get you some medicine or something. I mean, don't give it to everybody.
Thank you. Very nice. It's always good to have, the what's the word I'm looking for here?
I don't know. I don't know if you know what the word is.
Positive reinforcement. Watson, how you doing?
Positive.
Fine. You sound awful.
You sound awful.
Well, we got a little snot fest going on. So,
that's nice to know.
Watson, as you know, a lot of the pundits around the country are doing their comparisons of the NFL jobs that are open. And by the way, we now, it looks like, take the Raiders off the list. It looks like Antonio Pierce is getting the interim removed and getting the permanent head coach thing. So congratulations to him. Watson, I decided to put together a meter, if you want to call it that, of what candidates that are talking to the Titans, what is it they're looking for that determines attractiveness? And I got to tell you that I took one out. I took out the Dome Stadium and instead put current roster up there. And I didn't grade the current roster very attractive. So I plagiarized for you on that one.
Okay.
Okay. So this is, for the most part, your opinion of the attractiveness of the Titans job. Let's start with owner Amy Adams Strunk, who has been a little bit of a wild card, a little bit of a mixed bag. Give me some thoughts there.
I think the jury's out, but the red flags went up with quick draws, I guess I would say, George. Letting your GM go during the season, I don't know if I'd ever even heard of that. Maybe it's happened, but I haven't heard of it. And I thought that was interesting. And then to let a coach go that was very popular in the city and had a winning record with the franchise and well thought of throughout the NFL. Those were quick decisions that I think were surprising to everybody. So that's the only reason I would rate her down a little bit, but that could all work out perfect by what she's done. So, I mean, I think it's a little bit premature to say that, but by what's happened so far, I'd put her about a 4, I guess.
Okay. You gave Rand Carthon, the new GM, the same number, a 4. The 1 being the least attractive, the 10 being the most attractive. Is Carthon more we just don't really know anything?
I think it's right with her. Nothing is his fault. He got hired. He's been brought in. He hasn't had an opportunity to do a lot just yet, but he's fixing to have a big stamp on him, a good one or a bad one, because he's going to be right in the middle of everything that goes from here on, and including hiring the head coach and then the players that are brought in. So I just don't think there's enough there to know. I haven't liked him being behind the scenes so much, but that may have been what he's told to do at this point. And it sure looked like it from press conference wise when Mike was let go. I think that he was told exactly how to handle that. So again, premature, but we're going to know pretty quickly on those two things you just talked about, because the next decisions basically set this franchise for, next 8 to 10 years, in my opinion.
Watson, the next one has become way more important than it was 20 years ago, and that is, what do you got at quarterback? So you've given Will Levis a 6, with 10 being the most attractive. Talk about that number.
Well, George, my 6 is a little bit the same. It's premature. I see talent to be that, but he hasn't shown us that yet. And the only reason he hasn't is he's just not played a lot. He got hurt in preseason. We didn't get to see him then. He got his shot, played a little bit, knocked down, just like Ryan did. And I just hadn't seen enough. So I gave him a 6 in potential, but the jury's still out. And this coming year, I think we'll know the 6 goes up or the 6 goes down. And does it stay that way or not? So he's just been hurt so much. And you said it to me yesterday. I brought up injury. I said he's been injury prone. He was hurt at Kentucky his last year a lot and played through a lot of it, but didn't play very well. But give him credit for being tough and playing through it. And then he's been hurt here with the Titans. But you basically said who hadn't been hurt that's been under the center for the Titans with the offensive line play we've had. And you nailed that one by saying that. So I think I'm on the positive side. That's why I gave him a positive grade on the plus side of the 5, but not real high yet.
The salary cap situation is easily the most attractive piece right now of where all this is. You gave it a 9 out of a 10. And, with upwards of 80 plus million to work with, that ought to be a desirable piece of this.
Absolutely. That is the big piece. I'm not sure that there would be a good rating at all. And I'm not sure they could attract a very good one without that piece, George. That's huge. We have the money, we have the space. So that's where somebody's going to get to walk in the door and have a lot to say with that, in my opinion. And I would think they're telling the coach that we're going to let you be a big piece of this when you come in the door. And that would be one of the ways to recruit the next guy they bring here, in my opinion. And we probably paid for it a little bit last year, but we've developed this cap space, and it's one of the best in the league, if not the best. I asked you that yesterday. I'm not sure if anybody has any more. If they do, it's not much more.
Current roster, I gave it a 3. Do you really argue that at all?
No. If you had asked me, I was sitting here after you said that, what would I say? And I said 4. So I think there's some good players, especially on the defensive side. There's sprinkling of good players. The current roster to me is not very good, and 4 is probably a little high, but I'll stick with that for the time being.
I put fan base in this equation yesterday when you and I talked about it. This was a rabid fan base when they got here, and it was 69,000 strong every time they opened the gates. Such is not the case anymore. Lower level, pretty strong, a lot of empties in the middle, in the red section, and upstairs where I am in the upper deck, for most games, 40, 50% full.
And I don't disagree with that, but when I sit and watch games on television, other than a few teams, the Bills, the Cowboys, there's some, but a lot of the teams look like that. So I wouldn't just put them way down. I think I said middle of the pack. Maybe you think that's a little high, but I just watch throughout the league. and different teams that Jacksonville when I watched them play, Indianapolis some when I watched them play. Houston picked it up big time late. We know why, but when I watch Houston's crowds, so I don't think it's what it should be here, but I don't know that the NFL isn't struggling a little bit with that.
Watson, take your time with this next question while I try to blow my nose. That's certainly a pleasant thought. Do you think most of the candidates play this game to any, to any great degree, or are they also happy to get a job offer? They don't care.
Oh, I think it's a little of both. It's the way I would look at it. I think there's guys that are just begging to be an NFL head coach, and for because that's been their goal all the way through. Their money goes way up, so I think there's some that are going to grab and go no matter which one it is. And then I think there's others that, go and listen, but they're just not going to take one till it's the right thing. So you've got a pile of each of those, in my opinion, out there. And it'll be interesting to see where they go with this. And the second piece to me, George, is where they go is philosophically. Because in college football, I was one of the exceptions kind of, but in college football, the head coach is a CEO. He's pure CEO, most of them. Now, I'm not saying he's not a football coach, but he lets his people, he hires to do this, he hires to do that, and he lets them, he knows what's going on, but lets them go. The NFL is not that way. It's very seldom. Every coach seems to be on one side of the ball or the other, and vividly on one side of the ball or the other. And most of the time, 90% of the time, he is coaching on one side of the ball or the other, even though they sometimes want to say they're not. But I think Mike did. I think he coached big time here on the defensive side of the ball with the Titans. And so philosophically, where are they going? I see them interviewing defensive guys and offensive guys. I thought they would go offensive, but I think the other thing the NFL does now, George, is they want to know who if you're a defensive coach, they want to know who the offensive coordinator is going to be. Not a list, but who is it going to be? And I think that's part of the hire. So I'm just still watching this thing philosophically and how it plays out.
Okay, we got word yesterday that Vrabel, and I don't know if it was Zoom, I'm assuming Zoom and not in person, with the Chargers. Don't you think the big question they had was, look, we've got this great quarterback. You're interviewing for this job. Clearly you're interested and you know about Justin Herbert. Tell us that you've got a big-time offensive coordinator in mind and not Todd Downing.
Absolutely. That's what we just talked about. There's no doubt in my mind, the first question, if it's not the first, it's the second. The first question to me is, who is the opposite side of the ball coordinator? And they just hired a defensive guy and it didn't work. And so if they hire another defensive guy, I think they're going to most definitely want to know who the coordinator is going to be. And that would be real interesting to see who Mike said it was going to be, George. That would be real interesting, because I can't wait to see when and it's not if, when Mike gets another job, does he change philosophically in his conservative clock, run first, pass second? Because I think I said this to y'all the other day, the NFL has become a fake run first offense. The NFL is 60-40 pass. But what the good ones are doing is they convince you they're running it more than they are to get you to play the run, and then they're hitting with all the play action passes on the early downs. That's the good offenses in the NFL right now. And Mike was the opposite. He was 60-40 run, whereas the really good ones right now are 60-40 pass. But a very solid running game that can disguise and and make you think they're running the ball. Green Bay Packers the other day, a perfect example of that, even though they did run it better than they had in some other times. We talked the 49ers, run, pass, run, pass, but they're passing the ball for their big plays. They're passing the ball for their big plays. And so I'm really anxious to see if, number one, does Mike change his philosophy in his next job, and who is his offensive guy going to be?
Are you convinced Bill Belichick will end up in Atlanta?
I think he's Atlanta or nothing. I think it's Atlanta or nothing. That's what I think. And something's holding it up. I don't know exactly what it is. I'll bet it's Bill. I'll bet you he's laying down things that he's got to have, and they're trying to get through those things. That's what I would bet. And I think Bill would rather have that than that one laid out there that everybody thinks they're supposed to be really good. I think Bill would love to go back now and take one that hadn't been as good, but knows he's got a good shot at it, and do it that way. So I think it's Falcons right now or nothing for him, and he might wait a year. He might end up retiring.
Billy, what do you got for Watson?
Watson, let's get into these games. I'm excited because I think that the spreads are high, and you got a couple of 9s in there. I think you got a 6, which I was a little surprised by. But let's start tomorrow. Texans, Ravens. Can CJ Stroud keep this going? We've seen Lamar Jackson struggle, of course, in the playoffs. Can he finally pull through?
Oh gosh. For his sake and the Ravens' sake, I hope so, because I don't like any guy getting labeled that way. We just watched Dak Prescott again, and honestly, I said it to y'all the other day, I feel sorry for Dak because I don't think he's being used proper to give him the best chance to be that. He's a guy that was a different style quarterback in college, and he's not a drop back guy. Well, they've done the same thing with the Ravens guy, but they've used him perfect in the passing game, and he's gotten a lot better. I'm worried about it, Billy, that he's got 3 weeks. He's had 3 weeks off. When they benched him on that in the last game of the year, I said, "Oh my gracious!" And they got an open date, or I call it an open date because that's what we call them in college. But you set the first round, and so that ends up being 3 weeks before he plays in a really critical game that you can't make any mistakes in when you get to this point in the season. And the Texans are hot. I can't imagine it being 9.5. That one is, if you ask me to one to underdog, this would be it. I'm not sure they win the game, but I just can't see it being 9.5.
Well, another one that I'm surprised by, Packers-Niners. Niners favored by 9.5. That's tomorrow night. Jordan Love has been phenomenal. Another young quarterback going on the road. Do you give him a better shot of maybe taking the Packers out there and winning than maybe CJ Stroud?
No, I don't. That one is close to if the 49ers win, I think they get them good. If the Packers win, it's going to be last play of the game. That's the way I would look at that one, because the 49ers to me are really, really good. And I don't think that the Packers will run the ball on that bunch the way they did the Cowboys. So I'm not as excited about. I was more down on the Cowboys than up on the Packers. That's the way I looked at that. Maybe that's unfair, but that's just the way I feel. And I think that they'll show they're still not that just ready to win a Super Bowl yet. They're so young. I just think they're a year away, maybe 2, from being really, really Packer good again. But I just think the 49ers will get them, and it might be close to that.
Lions favored by 6.5 against Baker Mayfield and the Bucks. It's the most expensive divisional round ticket in the history of the divisional round games. The Lions fans are going to be on fire again. Do you think they can keep it rolling?
Yeah, I do. I think they will. They've handled blitz teams fairly well because their style of passing is very, as you all heard me say, passing the football is time, protection, timing, and spacing. They're very quick in their timing of things. And he can get a hat on everybody, and even an outside guy, not an inside guy, but an outside guy coming free can't get there by the way I see them. They run a lot of these skinny posts, shallow cross. They run a lot of little square ends at 10, 12 yards. They're not as deep as other square end teams. They run some of those, but a lot of their stuff is shorter, and he kind of flashes the ball, Billy, and lets it go. He is as quick at getting rid of the ball. He'd probably be second, in my opinion, to the Dolphins on how quick he gets rid of it. And I think the blitzing, and they're a little more zone blitzes than man blitzes. And I think that leaves these little skinny post and square in areas open and shallow crosses. So I think the Lions are going to do it.
All right, last one here. I want to bring George in for this one too. KC, Buffalo. Josh Allen finally gets a home game against Mahomes in Buffalo, and you know how excited they're going to be. They're favored by 3.
Billy, I cannot reveal.
Okay. Well,
we know what that means.
The bet of the day. Okay, then let's just go Watson. It's like Herbie on game day. George, I'm calling this game. Just give the analysis. But no, Watson, can Josh Allen get it done? Because for his sake, I really hope he does.
He's another one. He's another one that I'm pulling for just to get that off your back. Because I've always said, Billy, the quarterback catches too much grief when they lose and way too much pat on the back when they win. Same thing with the head coach. It's a team game. And the reason I think he's finally going to get it done is they're finally giving him help. This is the first time since I've been with George anyway, that I've seen the Bills run the football and run it and be good at it, not just call a run to hurry up and get to a pass on the next play. And so I think they will. I think it's going to be a very close football game. And I really believe whoever has it last is going to win the game. These two teams both play in cold weather all the time. So, I mean, that's not going to hold this game back in any shape, form, or fashion. It's the best game of the weekend, in my personal opinion.
Come on, George, get your pick in. Watson needs it. He's got to get his pick in.
Listen very closely, okay? You want me to go ahead and do it?
Why not?
It's just simply time. At 2.5, and I just checked to see that it is at 2.5. It's Buffalo. Buffalo's the better team today. It is Buffalo's time. They got them where they want them. Now, let me say this. This whole, it's the first time that, what's his name has been on the road. Please, give me a break. That will
not about Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
No, he don't care where he's playing.
No.
Well,
but that
don't care where he's playing. That doesn't mean he's going to win the game, but he don't care where he's playing.
No, but I'll tell you what is going to lose it for him is receivers. They're not as good as they need to be.
No, they're not. They're not as good as they've been. They're not near as good as they've been, and they're not even as good as they need to be. I think you said it perfectly. And I think it's finally going to catch up with them. And unless Buffalo blows it, I think they're going to win the game because I agree with you 100%. I think they have the better team this time. And their defense has played better, George, and they played the run better. They've gotten a whole lot better from the start of the year to the end of the year. I watched them a lot last week in their game, and man, they're disguising coverages really well now. And when we watch them earlier in the year or even years past, they're so simple. You can see what they're in. They're not. They've changed some things, and they've gotten better at it as the year goes on. So both of you and I will lose a house over this if that don't happen.
Watson, the NFL Network showed a replay last night of 2 years ago when Buffalo thought they had it won and Kansas City takes over down 36-33, 13 seconds left. It's some of the worst defense on 2 plays you could ever imagine.
Looks a little bit like the Cowboys.
Wow. It was unbelievable that Buffalo lost that game in Kansas City.
Yeah. Oh, that was a killer too, George. They played so good that day, especially offensively. But that was just a killer. I just think it leads to them. I think it's their turn and they know it. And I think they don't wish it. I think they know they got it. Just go do it. And they've been leading to this, and I think they finally get to go after it. And I think they're going to do it.
Hey, thank you for coming on. Apologize that I couldn't get 5 words out without either blowing my nose or coughing. But thanks for being a good pinch hitter.
Oh, man. Been there, done that with you, man. Get well. I've been right there.
We'll do it.
You're right. Everybody's kind of got it right now.
Oh, yeah. Listen, stay warm up there.
I'm sitting in front of a fireplace. That's why we're speaking. So I may not leave it for 3 more days.
Good for you. See ya.
All right, guys. Good to talk to you.
See ya.
See y'all. See you, Billy.
Billy, after the break, I'm going to give you 4 winners. I've already given you 1. There are 3 more coming, and God knows I need it.
Fade George.
See ya.
It was the most horrible experience that any mother could ever go through. I knew that I needed to get help. My friend, she immediately said, "You need to call Bart Durham." And you guys were there within an hour. You guys are like family for us.
Yeah, sure is nice to connect with the people that you're doing your best to help.
The George Plaster Show is Nashville's best sports talk, 2 to 4 p.m. Monday through Friday on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. There's a podcast version available on Spotify and Apple Podcast.
As the trusted premier custom home builder in Middle Tennessee, Donnelly Timmons has over 20 years of experience in the industry. Whether you're looking to build your dream home or renovate your current home, their team will ensure that every client and every remodel is unique, luxurious, and completed on time within budget. Founders Dustin Timmons and Joey Donnelly have over 25 years of construction experience in the Nashville area. Together, they have completed projects in Forest Hills, Oak Hill, Green Hills, Franklin, and Brentwood. Dustin and Joey believe that communication is the most important aspect of all construction projects. Therefore, they personally manage each project themselves and are involved in job site activities on a daily basis. Their commitment to quality and integrity has earned them an outstanding reputation among their clients. Contact them to set an appointment for a free consultation or to view some of their completed projects. Give them a call at 615-456-7983 or log on to DonnellyTimmons.com.
Looking for more than just awards and trophies? Southern Trophy House is your one-stop solution. For over 60 years, their team has created lasting impressions with a personalized touch. From embroidery to screen-printed apparel to corporate awards, signs, and name badges, they have everything you need to keep your brand shining bright. With their knowledgeable customer service team, you can relax as they create, produce, pack, and ship merchandise and awards on time and on budget. That includes etched crystal awards, custom-cut acrylic, name badges, embroidered Richardson ball caps, banners, screen-printed T-shirts, laser-engraved Yeti cups, and knives. Recognize your hard-working team from Southern Trophy House, where they do their best to help you recognize your best. Located at 2705 Nolensville Pike in Nashville, give them a holler, 615-256-7295. Visit southerntrophy.com. Southern Trophy House, for all your personalization and recognition needs.
Final segment on a Friday, big weekend. NFL divisional round starts tomorrow. 2 games, and then 2 on Sunday. Lots of good college basketball as well. But first, let's see what happened last night with Bet of the Day, brought to you by Bart Durham Injury Law. Give them a call, 615-242-9000, or log on to bartdurham.com. George?
Oops.
Struggle bus.
Yes.
Big time.
We need wins. Michigan, down 1, saw Illinois score, I don't know, it was like 14 in a row. And I knew I was in trouble at that point.
Yeah. Northwestern, we talked. That was 2 nights ago.
You know who's playing well for Michigan is Olivia Kamwa, former Tennessee Volunteer.
Forgot about him.
Yeah. Well, Michigan hasn't. He's the best player they've got. Anyway, Billy, let's go to the NFL, and let's start with this Buffalo game for a minute. I think Kansas City has been a struggle. Oh, nice. Very nice.
What you got?
There we go. Okay. I think Kansas City has been a struggle all year long. The receiving core not nearly as good as when Tyreek Hill was there. And only Patrick Mahomes' brilliance has masked this. But in Josh Allen, you got a quarterback on the other side that's as close to as good as Mahomes as there is. Great runner. He's going to run a lot in that game. And Buffalo's just flat out going to win, and they're going to cover. And I feel very strongly about that.
I agree. I like Buffalo. I hope Buffalo wins. I've always liked Josh Allen. There's a part of me that thinks Mahomes might just do it again, though. I don't want to believe that, but he's done it so many times. And Watson's right. He doesn't care where he's playing, and it's just as cold as it is in Buffalo. So either way, it's going to be close, and I'm glad this is the last game of the weekend.
I'll put it this way for Buffalo. If not now, when?
Yeah.
If it doesn't happen now, when is it ever going to happen? They've got it in Buffalo for the first time. All these other tough playoff losses have been at Arrowhead. Arrowhead's not a factor this time. It's Buffalo. Buffalo's going to win.
I think Josh Allen's legs might do it.
Let's go to some of these other games. There are some unusually high numbers here, and I'm going to take Green Bay plus the 10. Now, do I think Green Bay wins the game? Absolutely not. I could see a scenario where they get a backdoor cover, where San Fran has clearly been the better team, but Green Bay scores late. I'm going that the 10 points will be the difference. San Fran wins, Green Bay covers.
Way too many points.
It does feel that way. In Detroit, the Lions are simply going to win. They are a more solid football team than Tampa. Only Baker Mayfield going crazy changes what I got here. I'm taking the Lions minus the 6, and then I'm going to do something really crazy with the next one. A 2 teaser. It's too many points in the Baltimore-Houston game. So we're going to tease Baltimore down to minus 3.5, and then basically tease Detroit to virtually a pick 'em. And that's how we're going to end the week.
Here we go. Virtually a point, half a point.
Yeah, something like that. Games do not ever get decided by a half point.
No, they don't.
You never hear a final score. 21.5 to 20.
You might.
Vegas, does that hook matter?
No, the old hook. It'll get you.
I'm going to go blow my nose for the weekend. All of a sudden, in the last 45 minutes, I've gone from great to back in a snot fest, and I'm tired of it.
Come on, we'll need you Monday, George. Come on, let's get better.
I'll be there Monday. Have a good weekend. And
you too, George.
all of you, if you're driving this weekend, drive safe. It's going to be bitterly cold. Who knows what that does on the roads? Hopefully they'll be fine. See you Monday.